The investment contract test in Howey applies to the offering, not to the subject of that investment contract. And often, digital assets are distributed through an investment contract, whether exempt offering or otherwise, but the subject of that investment contract may have a different characterization. Then the brief discusses how there is no case law, there is no precedent as to what law applies to the subject of that investment contract, similar to what was set forth in the Telegram brief, and also what the judge in the Telegram decision said, that digital assets that reside on a blockchain are simply technology and code. The investment contract is formed with certain undertakings and promises and offerings that are made under an investment contract where that digital asset, under which that digital asset is offered. And so that same theme carries through, reminds this court again that there is no law that applies to the subject of that investment contract. And this case is primarily, it is exclusively about initial offerings, or whether or not Ripple had initial offering of unregistered securities. However, the brief does mention that to the extent the judge does go beyond initial offerings in its decision or consideration and discusses secondary trading, it again reminds the court that there is no law on what applies for secondary offerings of digital assets that might have previously been offered under an investment contract. So it's a clean slate for legislation for the SEC to provide guidance on secondary offerings of digital assets and what law applies in that context.
As we get started with today's video, it's a video of Leila Tesler from Sidley Law. She discusses the amicus brief SEC Gov versus Ripple and the opportunity the court has to shape the legal framework and rules of the road for the digital asset industry. We can all agree as the digital markets grow, there's been a dire need for the SEC and other financial regulators to impose sensible regulations to protect the traders and investors alike. Investors and the public expect regulators to ensure financial markets are safe from fraud and manipulation. And although legislation may prove necessary in the future, regulators must begin using their existing statutory authorities to address many of the harms that digital assets cause. As always, welcome back to Moneyside, your favorite crypto news channel. If you're new here, welcome to the XRP Army. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our daily crypto news updates.
U.S. regulators, specifically the major ones, such as the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, they have pre-existing laws, pre-crypto laws, and they enforce them quite actively. So in a way, this is regulation by enforcement, although the commissions, of course, dispute that proposition. So they don't like the term regulation by enforcement, but in fact, this is what they do. So we looked at all enforcement actions in the 4-year period between 2017 and the end of 2021. And we looked at the market reaction, the price reaction of the global crypto market. And we looked only at the largest coins, specifically and tokens as well, about 3,000 of them, with the market cap above $1 million. So what are the results? First, the markets react negatively to US-led enforcement. This is not surprising. And by the way, why would markets actually pay attention to the United States? Well, those two agencies and many other agencies within the United States have such expansive extraterritorial jurisdiction that it's really hard for foreign companies to avoid US regulation, specifically regulation by the SEC and the CFTC. So that was finding number one. The finding number two is as follows. The markets really react very negatively, and obviously the reaction is statistically significant to the SEC per se, and much less negatively or even positively to the CFTC. How so? Well, both agencies are US regulators.
Now, with everything that's going on between Ripple and the SEC, the regulators should grab this opportunity to ensure gas emissions from digital assets are limited, consumers are well protected, and the digital assets are fully compliant with the law. This is not the time to go after specific assets in order to just prove a point, but rather a time when the SEC should act in the best interest of investors. And as John Deaton shared in one of his recent tweets, before everyone starts saying how unfair and harsh the XRP community is to the SEC lawyers, keep in mind that it was a federal judge who said they were being hypocritical and lacked a faithful allegiance to the law. He went further to say that it would keep him up at night if the judge said that about me, not honoring my oath. Moving forward, we have a tweet from Crypto Airy, shared about a video that features a Swift and JP Morgan announcement at CBOS. Let's take a look.
What is Swift Go, and why is now the best time to roll it out?
Yes, so you just mentioned it. The low-value payment space is really skyrocketing, and banks are actually uniquely positioned to capitalize on this growth. Since the beginning of the year, I'm super happy to announce that we've tripled the number of banks signing Swift Go. So we went from 120 to now more than 400 banks. More importantly, the solution actually covers all the currencies in the world. All you need is a clearing bank so that you can start actually servicing customers in their local and non-local currency. And those payments arrive for 87% of them in 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
JP Morgan is aligning its Expedite product with Swift Go to make it even easier for clients to implement a low-value cross-border payment offering.
It's a new solution that we've launched at CBOS, and Expedite Remit focuses on consumer-to-consumer payments. So what we're trying to do is to help banks capture and retain these consumer-to-consumer flows, which, as I mentioned, they had sort of stepped away from that market. And if you look at banks, they have largely ceded that space to fintechs and money service businesses. And the fintechs and money service bureaus showed them that this can actually be a big business. And by the way, most of those firms use bank rails in the back end. So then banks have started focusing on low value payments. What we are trying to do is to help them settle real time where possible with full principal protection and upfront costs. And if you add all types of consumer payments, it can be more than $4 trillion. So it's a huge market, and it's growing at double-digit pace. So that's why everyone is suddenly interested in it. And so we said we'll come together and let's join forces. So think about where migrant workers send their money or expat workers send their money. India, China, Philippines, Mexico, those are the big corridors across the world. So we're building those out first. So we cover about 40% now. 70% of all the flows will be covered next year, and then after that 90%. So that's our roadmap.
As we've heard from that video, Swift Go and JP Morgan Expedite Remit join forces. This new partnership brings forth new payment solutions, low-value cross-border payments. It will also be assisting legacy banks to settle. Also, Swift covers all currencies, and JP Morgan will help banks capture and settle real time. And looking closely at what they are saying here, we can see that Ripple has always been perfectly positioned this whole time. And as we can see from this tweet by XRP Diamond Hand, Ripple is Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan's worst nightmare. They will try to bring down the product. They will fail, so eventually they will have no other choice than to just adopt it. Ripple's on-demand liquidity product has substantially advantageous features that facilitate cross-border payments, ease, and reliability. On-demand liquidity is exponentially faster for customers, and that's why it outshines all other products in the market. In more interesting news, the new Swift CEO shared that Swift's new transaction manager acts like a bridge and enables CBDCs, DLT networks to be interlinked not just with each other, but with the existing payment systems as well. That means once CBDCs get rolled out, they can immediately be scaled and used globally. Listen in.
But we are also taking innovation to the next level. And let's take CBDCs and digital money. We heard it as well from Commissioner McGuinness. There are over 100 countries now exploring CBDCs, but in that front, international cooperation is essential. So, well, very pleased. I mean, you may have seen it already, that last week we announced the results of groundbreaking experiments in that field, that show essentially that CBDC DLT networks can be interlinked, and not just with each other all over the world, but also with existing payment systems. And what this means is that as CBDCs will be rolled out, they can automatically, immediately scale and be used globally. And all of that, we're achieving it through Swift's new transaction manager that is acting as a bridge.
As always, do your own research and always trade safely, guys. Please keep in mind we're not a licensed financial advisor. All videos on this channel are intended for entertainment purposes only. You can always let us know what you think in the comment section below, and let's have a conversation. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, and please click on that subscribe button below and turn on notifications so you get informed whenever we post our amazing content. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next Money Side.